How to turn webinars into a profitable venture. In this tutorial, we are going to show how to turn your webinar into something that is actually making you money, and in some cases, quite a lot of money. There are lots of people out there that are making a good living solely from their webinars, and you can be one of them. Here are the steps to profitability. 1. Dominate a niche. If you want people to value your opinion on something, you need to make yourself an expert. When your name is all over a niche, from books to blogs to sales pages, people value your advice enough to pay for it. Make sure that when they research a niche, they see your websites or your name associated with it. 2. Provide good content. Obviously, people aren't going to pay for advice or information that they can get elsewhere. Make sure that what you are providing is really good stuff and is something unique that no one else is providing. Even if all you are doing is presenting good information in a unique way, you will be providing a service worth paying for. 3. Provide good quality. No one is going to pay for a pixelated webinar with lots of bad audio, technical problems, and other poor quality indicators. Make sure that you are using good equipment and that your webinars are something you would personally pay for. This means HD video, a fast computer and internet connection, and a high-quality microphone. 4. Get the word out. You can rely on the law of percentages for everything, and that includes paying for webinar content. The more people that hear about your webinar, the better the chances are that you are going to get people to buy tickets and attend. Make sure that you are spreading the word by advertising, using social media, and posting on your blog or website. 5. Decide how to monetize. Charging admission for your webinar is not the only way to make money from your presentation. You can sell just about anything with a webinar, and the advantage of doing it this way is that you will increase your attendance over 1,000%, and you could even make more money depending on what you are selling and how much you are charging for it. If you have a good service that people are willing to pay a monthly fee for, you could build up an excellent income. The 4 best ways to make people return for future webinars. If you want to be successful at hosting webinars, you are going to need return attendees. If your webinars can't provide staying power, then you are going to be starting all over whenever you begin advertising your webinar. Return customers will allow you to grow your audience, and that means more money in your pocket. Let's go over some of the best ways that you can make attendees want to come back. Provide amazing content. Obviously, the best way that you can entice people to come back is by providing amazing content when they are there originally. If you give people great information that allows them to improve their business, and they find really good value in what they learned at your webinar, they are going to want to attend future webinars. Offer them a reserved spot. During your current webinar, when you are nearing the end, take a moment and offer the people there a reserved spot at your next webinar. Get their emails, which you probably have already, and add them to your mailing list for the next webinar. They have just agreed to be reminded of your upcoming webinar, and some of them will definitely come. Offer an incentive. You might also want to offer them some kind of incentive for attending your webinar in the future. This will depend upon whether or not your webinar is free and what you have to offer. For example, if you are charging for your next webinar, then offer them a 50% discount if they sign up for a future webinar after they have already attended one. If you are not charging for your webinars, then you can do something like offer a useful ebook for free if they sign up for your next free webinar. Keep your webinar topic a secret. You can only do this once normally, but if you want to attract a larger percentage of people from your current webinar and get them to sign up for the next one, consider keeping the topic of your next webinar a secret. Talk it up and tell them that it's going to be an amazing presentation, but that it's top secret and you cannot tell them what it will be about. Promise it will be worth attending, and then you'll have to make sure that you deliver on that promise. The 4 secrets to creating a killer webinar. Do you want to create the most amazing webinar your audience has ever seen? Creating a killer webinar isn't easy, but it can be done if you understand what it takes to make one. In this presentation, we are going to show you exactly what the elements of a killer webinar are, and how you can make every webinar that you host absolutely perfect. Use high-quality video and audio. Make sure that you are using video rather than just audio and a whiteboard. People are so used to their information coming in video format these days that they expect you to be on camera and are less likely to return for future webinars or buy a product or service if all you have is audio and a slideshow or whiteboard presentation. Also, make sure that you are using an HD camera and a really good microphone. Use multiple presenters. You should also use multiple presenters when possible. No matter how good you are at hosting a webinar, people can get bored, and this is often alleviated when there are multiple presenters. In addition, a webinar has much more value when it is featuring multiple presenters, and that can mean higher ticket prices. Use multimedia when appropriate. When it helps your presentation, use multimedia like a slideshow, PowerPoint presentation, a whiteboard animation, images, sound bites, or video. These elements can make a good presentation even better and can drive the point home in many cases much better than anything you can say. Leave time for questions. Make sure that you always leave time for questions. That's why many of the people there have come to your webinar. They have questions that they need answers to, and they have put their trust in you to give them the right information. But you have to give them the opportunity to actually ask their question, so make sure that you leave plenty of time for it. You can use a moderator to make sure that the important questions get through. Do dress rehearsals. Finally, do dress rehearsals for all of your webinars. Work out the bugs beforehand. Make sure that all of the technical issues are resolved, and find out how you sound while you are presenting the material. Make improvements as needed before you go live with your webinar. You will come across as more polished and professional if you do. The 3 best services for hosting webinars. When it comes to hosting webinars, software programs and platforms abound. There are hundreds out there, all with different features and all charging different prices. But in this presentation, we are going to showcase the top 3 so that you can narrow down your choices and worry about what really matters, the content of your webinar. GoToWebinar. GoToWebinar is the webinar software from the people behind the well-known GoToMeeting. GoToWebinar is really geared towards small businesses and those that are new to doing webinars. Let's talk about the features and pricing. GoToWebinar includes features like screen sharing, audio via internet, and phone and mobile access. In addition, they provide a chat room for questions, keep track of your statistics, offer video capabilities for webcam or other video feed, and they allow you to rebrand the webinar software with your own logo and artwork. As for the pricing, there are 3 basic tiers that GoToWebinar starts out with. The first is great for those just starting out and is just $89 a month, allowing you to have up to 100 people attending your webinar. In addition, there is a Pro plan for $199 a month that allows up to 500 attendees. Their max is $3,000, so you can go higher and pay more if you need to. AnyMeeting. AnyMeeting has many of the same features that GoToWebinar does. For example, you can do screen sharing, you can stream audio and video, and they provide custom registration forms, branding of your own company artwork, and recording of your webinar. In addition, this is a great choice if you are charging admission to your webinars because it offers PayPal integration. The pricing is interesting as well. There are 2 meeting options, with up to 4 people attending on the platform at no cost, and up to 30 meeting for just $18 a month. As for the webinar options, the tiers go to $100, $200, $500, and $1,000, and the pricing for them, respectively, is $78 a month, $128 a month, $198 a month, and $298 a month. Cisco's WebEx. Cisco's WebEx is definitely a crowd favorite, and there are a lot of good reasons why. It is one of the best platforms out there for hosting webinars, and they have all of the features that were mentioned above, plus a whole lot more. The pricing is a bit trickier, but you can host up to 100 people for just $69 a month, and they can go up to 3,000. The 4 reasons people attend webinars. Have you ever wondered what the reasons are that people attend webinars? You know why you are interested in giving one, but do you understand the reasons why people attend? If not, then you may be missing out on some valuable insights that can help you connect better with your attendees, and that means more chance that you'll be able to sell them a product or service that they need. Reason 1. They believe you have something valuable to share. This is probably the most popular reason that people attend your webinars. They found out about you, personally, and they think that you have something valuable that they need. This is why it is so important to build a brand when you are trying to sell a product or service. If you can develop yourself as a brand or expert in one industry, then people will flock to your webinars to find out what you have to say about their own business or marketing efforts. Reason 2. They want to explore something new. Some people are just interested in exploring something new. They may not be there for your particular brand of wisdom, and in some cases they might not even know who you are. But the topic sounded interesting and they are open to learning new things. These kinds of people can be harder to convince to buy a product or service, but they are definitely worth pursuing. Reason 3. They want to be entertained. Some people may have signed up for your webinar or shown up because they had nothing better to do. Literally. These people enjoy facts and information and are entertained by presentations like the one you are doing. These people may not be buyers, but if your pitch is strong enough, then you can often sell them anyway. Reason 4. They have questions that need real answers. The 4th reason that people attend webinars is that they have questions that they can't seem to find the answers to, and attending a live session with an expert like you will allow them to ask those questions at the end. These are definitely important attendees because they are already in the business and are trying to increase their efforts. Make sure that you answer their questions and see if the products or services that you are offering with your webinar can help them grow their own business. 5 ways to make your webinars more fun and engaging. If you want to connect with your audience, you need to be engaging. That means that the audience is listening to you while you are talking to them. You are engaged in a conversation, even if you are the only one talking. And since you are the presenter here, it is up to you to keep their attention once you have this. In this presentation, we will go through some tips on how to make your webinars more engaging and more enjoyable for your audience. This should result in a better conversation rate for your webinars, not to mention a higher rate of people returning for future webinars as well. Tip number 1. Be interactive. When you are interactive, you aren't just telling the audience something, you are sharing with them, and they are sharing with you. Ask for answers to your questions, and even though your request might be rhetorical, and the answers run by in chat far too fast to see, people will feel like part of the conversation. Tip number 2. Check comprehension. Make sure to check comprehension after every concept that you are explaining. If you ask things like, "Do you guys get it?" and "Does anyone not understand what that means?" you will be including them in your presentation, and they will feel like an important part of it. Tip number 3. Do activities with your group. Do some fun activities with your group. Play some background music, and ask everyone to brainstorm something in their heads, or participate in something that will get everyone involved. This will alleviate any boredom that they were feeling before, and make them feel as if they are a valued part of the group. Tip number 4. Ask for questions several times. You should also make sure that you don't just leave a single question and answer session at the end of your presentation. Instead, hold a question session several times throughout the presentation. You would be surprised what people think up when they are being inspired by someone. Tip number 5. Use various fun multimedia presentations. Using things like memes, graphics, cartoons, whiteboard animations, pictures, and much more can easily make your presentation more fun and engaging, because they allow for the person to take a break from the concepts that you are teaching them and laugh a little. Videos and other forms are also great. Six secrets for becoming a best webinar presenter in your industry. Are you at the top of your game when it comes to webinars? Do you have a natural presence on camera? And do your webinars run smoothly without any technical issues or missteps with slideshows or other multimedia? Do people trust you when it comes to your particular niche? If not, then you may want to pay close attention to this presentation. We're going to teach you how to become the best webinar host in your entire industry. Learn everything about your industry. If you want to become the best webinar presenter in your industry, then you need to be an expert on your industry. Learn everything there is to know. Be familiar with your competition and be able to answer any questions that someone brings up about your niche. Grow your reputation. Make sure that you are consciously working towards a reputation as an expert in your industry. This means putting your name on ebooks about the subject matter, posting on blogs, ideally being asked to guest post on popular blogs within your niche, and in general, doing everything you can to build up your image. Get familiar with yourself. Become familiar with how you look on camera and how you talk. Record yourself trying to give your webinar to an empty room and see how you do before you actually present it in front of a live audience. Ideally, record your webinars and review them so that you can improve each time as well. Learn camera angles and lighting. Learn about camera angles and lighting so that you can present yourself in the best possible light. In addition, learn where to position your microphone for optimal sound. Experiment a bit and see what works best in your presentations. Develop diction and practice it. Some experts recommend that those who are serious about public speaking in business learn diction and other skills. In fact, taking a couple of acting classes may do wonders for your on-camera persona. Always rehearse your webinar. Always make sure that you do a full rehearsal before you actually go live. This is because there will be all sorts of issues, some of them technical and others related to your presentation itself, and you can often work out many of the problems beforehand if you do a full dress rehearsal from top to bottom. Six tips for attracting webinar attendees. If you want to host a successful webinar, one of the major elements is the number of attendees. No matter what your goal in actually holding the webinar is, the more people that you can attract, the better off you are. But how do you go about attracting a webinar audience? Are there any creative ways of getting them to come that you aren't currently using? We'll explore these questions and the solutions to them in this presentation. Here are some great out-of-the-box tips for attracting attendees. Organize a group presentation. The first tip, if you want to have more attendees at your webinar, is that you want to have more than just you as a guest speaker. Organize a group and have several experts from within the same industry or from related industries. Give away a free gift with attendance. People love free gifts, and they especially love gifts that will help them grow their business or make more money. That's why including an ebook or some other kind of program can really attract people to your presentation. Your gift should be worth something, and it should be something that you would normally charge money for. Preview the webinar on professional sites like LinkedIn. If you want, you can post a preview of the webinar on professional social media network sites like LinkedIn. A short video preview of your webinar, maybe the first 5 minutes of your presentation that you have recorded in advance, will get people to come. Have a webinar that clearly explains the value of your presentation. If people don't know what they're going to get out of your presentation, they have no motivation to attend. Don't just mention your upcoming webinar on your site. Have an entire page devoted to it that explains the benefits that attendees will get. Include trending or popular topics somehow. If you can, include some sort of trending or popular topic that will make people want to be part of the conversation, just because it is fresh, current, and popular. Make your invitation email something special. You can also concentrate on your invitation if you want to get a higher percentage of your email list to sign up. The problem is, people get emails all the time, many of them very similar to what you are probably currently sending out. Create something completely unique that they won't have any choice but to read. The 4 most common webinar mistakes and how to avoid them. If this is your first time hosting a webinar, or you are relatively new to hosting them, you are probably going to make mistakes. This is just a fact of life when you are starting anything new. Fortunately, there are some pretty common webinar mistakes that you can avoid if you know what they are and how to sidestep around them. This presentation will delve into the pitfalls of webinars and help you correct or avoid these mistakes to present the best webinar possible. Mistake number 1. Not doing a dress rehearsal. If you want to have a successful webinar, you are going to need to do a dress rehearsal. Not only do you want to hone your presentation to perfection, you also need to work out the bugs and kinks you will undoubtedly have. Whenever you are doing something with cameras and microphones and streaming video, you are going to have a few technical problems while you figure out how to use the platform. Make sure that you do at least 1 and possibly 2 dress rehearsals. Mistake number 2. Not promoting early enough or often enough. People are forgetful, and they aren't going to remember that they signed up for your webinar unless you remind them. Most people don't remind soon enough or nearly often enough, likely because they think by doing so that they will risk the person removing themselves from the mailing list. But if you want attendees, you need to remind them, and remind them often in the latter stages, the 2 or 3 weeks before your webinar. Mistake number 3. Not providing information attendees can act on. Mistake number 3 is presenting information that is just that, information. You need to present information that your attendees can actually take action with. They should have a clear picture of how to proceed as soon as they are finished getting the information. Mistake number 4. Not being engaging. Finally, the 4th mistake that people make is that their webinar is dry, boring, and not at all engaging. If you want people to remember your webinar and come back for more later on, or if you want them to sign up for a product or service that you are selling, then you need to engage them in your presentation. This is where practice comes in, and you should video yourself so that you can see how you look to others. Which are the best types of webinars to host? You may not be aware of it, but but there are actually several different types of webinars out there. Each one has a different goal and a different audience, and will require a completely different style of presentation. In this tutorial, we will go through the 3 styles of webinars and what the advantages or disadvantages are to hosting that kind of webinar for your business. Ultimately, it will come down to which one you think fits your product or service the best. Informational webinar. The first type of webinar is one that imparts information. Not surprisingly, this is known as the informational webinar. You are basically teaching someone something with this webinar, and while there may be instances where it is geared towards making money, in general the goal is to give the attendees the information without any further agenda. An informational webinar may be used in the case of a company that needs to let the employees know about a new product that they are adding to the lineup, or to teach them some new strategies for selling. An informational webinar is all about giving the information and very little else. Product or service webinar. A product or service webinar, on the other hand, is also educational, but the main goal with this type of webinar is to promote or sell something, even indirectly. You do not have to be holding up your latest ebook and actively selling it during your presentation for your webinar to fall into this category. Even if you are giving an informational webinar with the goal of selling a product or service down the road, this is still your type of webinar. Opportunity webinar. Finally, the third type of webinar is the opportunity webinar. This is a much less subtle style of webinar than the product and service webinar, because when you start your presentation, every attendee there knows, or should know, that you are there to convince them to take advantage of an opportunity. This may be a sales or investment opportunity, or just about any other commercial enterprise. The bottom line here is that once you understand the different types of webinars, you can choose the one that fits you the best, and you'll be able to connect much more effectively with your audience. So, which will you present? The informational, the product or service, or the opportunity webinar?